What's up, people? I'm Shaggy the Opinionated Hippie. Still haven't bought another light bulb because I'm lazy. But I'm going to start reviewing Moe's Warts and All series. This is volume one. About once a year, I go through a Moe phase for a week or two and I start digging out shows and listening to random Moe things. So this year, when the phase struck, the urge to listen to Moe struck, I was like, I'm going to do Warts and All. I'm going to listen to all six of these, drop a quick review, maybe turn somebody on to what I think is a pretty good jam band. Um, this is the first of six in like a live archival concert series. This is a complete show from February 28th, 2001 in Scranton, Pennsylvania. 3 discs. And Mo Live, there's a Frank Zappa connection. They cover San Bernardino Live. And at least one of these discs, we're going to get a Frank quote live in a show, which is pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. When they do it, it's pretty sweet. Chuck dips into some Inca Roads every once in a while, and it's pretty awesome. Not on this release. But their jams, not like the Dead, not like Fish. They don't really have type 2. Very seldom, if ever, do they go type 2. They're pretty much just really, really, really long guitar solos. The rhythm is generally, it's very dynamic, but it's not extreme in a Fish sense where we're like here and then here and then here and then here. It's usually a solid groove that's going for the entire time. And for most of these, like there's a bass player, a drummer, and a percussionist. So there's a lot going on in the rhythm section, but lends to the dynamics. And your typical Mo show, there's always exceptions, but you have a handful of songs which are kind of played the same every time. You have like a shorter solo that's, a limited number of bars, usually in the middle of the song. Then you get these really long 15, 20-minute songs, which are like a 5-minute song, then like a 10-minute guitar solo. Or like Chuck Garvey, one of the guitarists will drop an 8-minute solo. Then there'll be like a little segue energy, and then Al will drop another 8 or 10-minute solo. Really, really long solos. Chuck's tend to be more narrative, linear, feel more like a journey that makes sense from point A to point B. And Al's tend to be more cyclical, and they kind of gather energy and build this energy and get crazier as they go. Sometimes Al will drop in on the keyboards and add some awesome keyboard action in the back. But yeah, it's some really, really good stuff. And I think some of the most interesting stuff comes out of their segues. They segue a lot from Monster Jam to Monster Jam, and it's those segue moments that are sort of not song A, not song B, but kind of somewhere in between, a very Escher-like transition from A to B that are just some of the most magical moments. This is a pretty good show. So disc one has the first 4 songs of set one. Opens up with a 16-minute head, a song off their Fat Tires and Tin Cans. Tin Cans and Fat Tires. Why does the word Fat Tires? Tin Cans and Car Tires. I knew that wasn't right. But a really nice head. Really nice intro. They do a lot of intros, especially in the beginning of sets, where it's almost like an ambient jam. And you can hear sort of early notes in these ambient jams, like, oh, we're going to head into Head, or we're going to head into Rabubula, or we're going to head into Rabubula, or we're going to head into Mexico, or something. And you hear these notes, but they don't really commit to it. They're just like they tease it. And this is a really nice intro into Head. I think it's about 4.5, 5 minutes, kind of ambient, kind of spacey, kind of swirly as Head tends to be before they drop into that opening dun dun dun. Awesome Head riff. They play the song pretty much as we know the song from the studio album. Then there's a really nice kind of ambient solo. Like the Head solos are very, to me, they're some of their spaciest, most like there's a lot of like bubbly room in Head jams. They feel very like oceanic, like you're in the water, and there's a lot of like really, really good bobbing energy. Fantastic Head. Just absolutely wonderful, wonderful Head. Starts off the set really strong. Nice, just 10 solid minutes of improvisation, solid version of Head, go back into the song at the end before they wrap it up and give it like a nice hard, cold ending. Then we get 3 kind of normal songs. We get The Ghost of Ralph's Mom, which parts of it I don't like. The chorus, plus et chance, plus et ne méchant, whatever that rush is, only it's in English. The more things change, the more things stay the change. Is that what it is? I don't think that's what it is. In either case. But it's just, some of their choruses tend to be cliches. The chorus on this is cliched, but the verses are kind of cool. The energy is kind of cool. Nebraska, beautiful pop song. I love Nebraska, love the harmonies. It's definitely about being on the road. Nebraska's so flat. Yeah, I've driven across Nebraska many a times on Dead and Fish tour. Yeah, it's so flat. Great road song. And then Crab Eyes, in which the marimba, the percussion really comes to the forefront. Jim Laughlin's percussion, and very Zappa-y, very progressive in that sense. Kind of has a Zappa 74, 73 vibe with the heavy percussion. You could hear the Zappa band doing this. Lots of different parts on this. Little like bumpa, little like almost kind of reggae part. I think almost 2 or 3 of the vocalists get a chance to sing on this. Nice guitar solo in it. Really nice, solid, good, meaty 10-minute Crab Eyes to close out disc 1. And the reason there's only 4 songs on disc 1 is because the next 2 songs, which end the set, take up 48 minutes. You get a 17-minute version of Moth that is just fantastic. It is Moth. We just drop into Moth from the beginning. We get a fantastic Moth solo that just soars and takes us to places and just grooves. We even get like a Meat quote in there, the Moe song Meat, which they would play later in the set. Really nice quote in there. And right when you feel like maybe we're going to go back into Moth and wrap it up, we clearly sort of like downshift into like, okay, segue time. We're going live into another song. This isn't going to wrap up. And Rob starts, the bass player kind of steps forward, and you get some hardcore, like little funkiness seeping in. And it's clear like, okay, we're going to drop into a Timmy Tucker. And it's the Timmy Tucker. Once we drop into the actual track, it's still a matter of minutes before we get to the actual song. And there's a number of times on both this song and then a song that's going to happen later in the disc when you feel like the band's going to drop into Timmy Tucker and just do that that opening riff. But like right when we reach that peak, it's like, oh no, we're going to keep jamming some more. And we reach that peak and we're going to drop and we're going to keep jamming some more. And like these are the really special moments of Moe, where that live thing. They are a patient band. They take their time. They're not in a rush. There are times when they will just lock into a groove and write it for 2 or 3 minutes, maybe with some keyboard sounds, maybe some noodling. I'm using noodling in a positive sense here because it works well within the atmosphere of what they create. And that Timmy Tucker setup is really good. Finally, they drop into the song, do a really good version of the song. After that, I think Chuck solos first. We get a really healthy long Chuck solo, like minutes. Like the entire thing is 30 minutes long, and Chuck's going for like 7 or 8 minutes. We get a nice healthy peak. After we reach that peak, it kind of dies down. Al gets a chance to step up and do his sort of spiraling, building the energy back up, twirling type solo stuff. Al is the one that kind of, Al is the most, to me, Al is the volcano soloist of the two. Chucks have this sort of natural peak where they kind of reach this like obvious sort of like climax, but it's more of this like ascent of like climbing a mountain, where I think Al's really are like, we're going to start low, but the magma's building and then the magma intensifies. And then there's like so many moments when you feel like the magma is going to burst and it never does because Al just keeps it going. Really good volcano solo type to close out Timmy Tucker. And then after 31 minutes of Timmy Tucker, we go back into the chorus, and then they wrap up the song, finish the set. Really exhilarating for a set. Strong opener. The 3 songs in the middle, which are almost like breathers, are really fun songs. And then we close out with a really solid 48 minutes of a Moth into Timmy Tucker that is just fantastic. Disc 2 continues with the first 2 songs off from set 2, which themselves take up 25 minutes. We get a Happy Hour Hero, great song about playing in a club and like getting points on the door and what you have to do as a band, and really good sort of band life lyrics. Nice guitar solo at the end. And once the guitar solo reaches its peak and we're in that transition, we're like, oh, they're not going to wrap up the song. We're going to segue into the nice song. That's when it gets really interesting, really funky. It gets almost psych swirly for a while. And at one point you realize, okay, they're going into Seat of My Pants. Like you can feel that do, 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 do. And there's just, I think Al's running the show at this point. There were times when I'm not sure whether it's Chuck or Al, so forgive me for that. I'm pretty sure it's Al at this point. And he keeps teasing that do, 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 do. But instead of like finishing up, he's like do, 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 do. And then he goes off somewhere else. And then he'll come back into that do, 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 do. And then go off somewhere else. And again, it's just like this buildup and the anticipation for the drop. And it's like, when is it going to happen? But they keep giving us like more and more goodies, more and more improvisation. Finally, they drop into Seat of My Pants and the crowd cheers. Like, okay, now we're in the song. Seat of My Pants, really dynamic song. Got some like almost like reggae ska parts, got some really heavy parts, kind of all over the map in a, you know, your typical jam band, semi-proggy type way. But a good song. Combination of these two, really solid 25 minutes opening. Then we get disc 3, we get Tambourine, which starts off with a really nice slide solo. And this is kind of a pretty laid back, chill song, really fun, kind of groovy, kind of a country day, summer's day, a very, very feels like a first set Grateful Dead song almost. And it's just kind of chill, laid backness. Then we get a Waiting for the Punchline, which is the one song that on here, Waiting for the Punchline, it's like 15, 16-minute song. It's got this really nice rock part, but then they also go into this like washboard, hoedown, country jam part. And I've never, in almost any version I've heard of, the version of Waiting for the Punchline, which has the country washboard part, I just don't, it's not my favorite thing they do. I think it's a little, I don't think it's dynamic enough. I don't think they're doing enough. I think the guitar solo playing is just kind of lost in the craziness of everything that's going on. But then when they go back into the hard part of the kind of rock groove of Waiting for the Punchline, I'm re-engaged. So I'm always hit and miss on that song. This is a pretty solid version of it. But it is one of those when I would see them live, I'm like, I'd kind of like to hear something else, but I know people who love this song, so that's just my 2 cents. And then we get into the rest of the set. The rest of the set is no stop. We don't stop from here on out. We get like a 14-minute Kyle song. We get a 30-minute Meat. When Meat's about to end and we feel like we're going to wrap up Meat, maybe Meat's going to be the cold stop, we drop back into the Moth reprise from the first set. So we finally finish the Moth. This whole thing is like 40 minutes long, 45 minutes long. The Kyle song is just great. One of the newer songs of the time. Just starts off really kind of slow, kind of cool, kind of laid back, driven by Rob's bass. And then we get a really nice solo after that. And when that solo ends, we start to get into that little more funk. Rob is stepping up a little like doom, doom, that Meat sort of groove. Then knows like, okay, we're in for a real treat right here. They drop into Meat. Once we know we're in Meat, I don't think we drop into it right away on the actual like track. Like we get a lot of like fooling around with that doon, 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 that like opening groove and that spiraling guitar lines that come in. We finally drop into Meat. We get an epic first guitar solo. It just goes on and on and on. It reaches a bunch of peaks and then drops down and then rebuilds up to other peaks. We get a full-on running with the devil quote at some point, like nah, 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 nah. Some really nice running with the devil. We get a really long third stone from the sun quote in which I think this is Chuck, I'm pretty sure. The third stone from the sun melody is played kind of calm and it's kind of peaceful and it feels really good. And it's played a number of times and like Garvey is committed to this and it's like really working. But the background is like percussion, craziness and all kinds of chaos going on. And like those two things, just like the way the third stone lays over like this crazy energy underneath, it just works perfectly. That eventually wraps up. We get some bass energy at some point where Rob is kind of doing a bass solo, but not really because everybody's still going crazy, and the guitarists are kind of just providing rhythmic support in the background. We go back into like the Meat energy, like we're gonna wrap up Meat, getting those like spiraling licks that they play, and then that goes back into She Knows Every right off, and we finish Moth. It's just the Meat is fantastic, the Kyle's fantastic. Like the last 45 minutes of this show, I think are just like improv heaven. And again, if you're new to them, I highly recommend you check it out if you like improv. They're not like The Dead. It's completely different. They don't drop into deep spaces. We don't get this like really everybody's having their own conversation at the dinner table and what really is going on type thing. Everything tends to be very linear and very like we've got a purpose, we've got a focus. But the musicians are all fantastic. The solos are fantastic. The bass playing's fantastic. There's enough little diversity to like make each performance dynamic. But the overall effect of it, just to like soak yourself in like a 30-minute Meat where it's just the same thing relentlessly, and like the endurance that these guitar players have to play as long as they do. It's just amazing. And then the encore is an I Want to Be Sedated. They only got a couple of minutes. We got to do this. They do it really nice. I want to be sedated. And then it ends. It's really good. Yeah, I like it. I think the jams on here, which is why I go to Mo, are pretty fantastic. Out of the one I've done so far, this is the number one ranked Warts and All. I'm not going to put it up on the screen because, of course, it's number one at this point. But yeah, if you haven't checked them out, I think this is a good place to start. I think the jams show what they're capable of. They have better. The songs, I think, are pretty good. The three normal songs that are on the first set are good representation of their diversity. It's a good start. It's good energy, good fun. I highly recommend you check it out. If you have and you have thoughts, let me know. I'd love to hear them. But that's all I got for now. Subscribe, like, share, comment, and go listen to Mo, man. I know it's up on streaming. I know it's up on Nugsnet. I know you can get it all over the internet. It's a good band, man. I also, we have a CD exchange. I think it's now DVD exchange because the CD section, sadly, is small. They had a couple of these, Warts and All, at one of our bigger ones here in town, which surprised me. Don't know why anybody would sell them, but I know they're out there. They're floating around. Check them out. All right, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Peace. Talk to you later.